Paddy Power, sponsors of the road to Cheltenham.
So this is definitely right. We have found it.
You sure?
Absolutely positive, yeah.
We are in the middle of nowhere.
I love that about racing yards. So, you know, how they're nestled away and there's this massive hive of activity that people drive past every day and have no idea.
Yeah, I suppose. Where are we? I know where we're going, like, but I didn't think it was this remote.
It is remote. It's beautiful as well, though.
It is that.
And we've got here safely, which is the main thing.
Was that ever in doubt?
Where are we? There are some clues along the way. I reckon that one's just given it away.
Grand Annual winner, I would have thought so. Midnight River won what?
The freebooter at Aintree's Grand National meeting.
Chittabello, get on the Jaeger, Chittabello, County Hurler, Scottish Champion Hurler, Alfaroff.
Used to live here and now Lamilos does. So where are we? I reckon our roadies will have worked it out by now. We are on the road to Aintree, an extra stop. This thriving, busy, bustling yard is that of Team Skelton. So the purpose of this road to Skelton is to get behind the curtain, hence I'm alongside Dan Skelton at the nerve centre of the day. I know everybody else does, I find these boards absolutely fascinating, Dan. Hello, by the way. Can we just dive straight in?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why you find it fascinating. I mean, without this, we would struggle to run our day. Well, I'd say struggle, we just wouldn't be able to run our day here. It's a very simple Teacard system that I think most trainers in some form adopt all over the world. It works very, very well for us. Everyone knows what they're doing. Riders' names, horses that they're riding in which particular lots, and then the colour depends on which yard they are. And in the instance of the purple and the pinks and the reds, that's an age group. So these horses here are all at different age groups at a young stock yard. So someone's not going to go and sort of ride a 3-year-old the same way they would ride a 6-year-old. So this just makes it easy for us.
So this is first lot, second lot.
Yeah.
Okay. And so before we arrived, this would have been. There's
cards. There's cards all over here, and then someone rings up and said they're late for work, or someone rings up and say the kids can't get the kids to school until 9, and then one comes out and one has to go somewhere else. But it's just very, very simple, and it just means that everyone knows what they're doing at what particular time. So we're not rushing round out there, literally going, "Where's that horse?" And things like that. So if you get it set up at the start of the day, it just makes things easy.
And in terms of scale, you mentioned this has got a lot bigger. I mean, how much bigger? Can you give us numbers?
It was about that when we started. I think we started with 12.
Right.
Yeah, the first day we rode out any horses here, I think we started with 12 horses.
Wow. That's 2013, is it?
2013, yeah. We had dreams for it to become something like this, but from dream to reality feels like it was a long, long time ago, let alone work and everything else ago. But it's something we always hoped it would be. And actually, scale is easy in a weird way, because a lot of people always say to me, "God, how do you know all the names of the horses? How do you do?" Scale is actually easy. It's getting your system right to cope with the scale. Once the system's right, the scale is easy.
Okay. Well, we'll get more into your system and into the implications of scale later on, but we need to head back and join Ruby, because he is with Harry, and they're going to reflect on other themes that are important to the Skelton yard.
So Lydia, you might be with the name on the licence even, but I have found the other half of what is very much a team. Harry Skelton, how are you?
Good, Ruby. How are you?
I'm great, thank God. Thanks for having us. Harry, how would you describe the 2024-2025 season?
I think it's been a success. The horses have all run pretty well, but I do think things could have been a little bit better in places. Financially, very good.
Very good. Well, it could be very good for you, but next Friday you could have won the David Power Cup, a cool $500,000. It got a bit of stake early on, I think unfairly. You probably think the same.
Yeah, I think anything like that, you know yourself from jockey's point of view, so we've never had anything like this. So hopefully, we can get across the line and pick up that cheque next Friday at Aintree. But as far as Dan's concerned, prize money wise, we've had a great year and just got to keep going now right to the end.
Do you think Dan being champion trainer, being part of this team, that would be the ultimate achievement for you?
100%, absolutely, 100%. It's always, you know, I was lucky enough to pick up a Champion Jockey Trophy once. That's what I always wanted to do. But I really feel that to be part of a champion trainer operation, that was the ultimate goal, and hopefully we're not far away.
You can touch it. You can almost feel it. Are you slightly nervous that you mightn't get it?
We were slightly touching it nearly last year. Yeah, exactly. You know, the people that we're up against, obviously Paul, Willie, Nicky, you know, they want it as well, don't they? They're challenging. We've got to keep going. Yeah. You're
heading to the last and 300 through 5 in the Grand National.
Yeah.
He's got a chance of winning.
Yeah, that'd be nice, though, wouldn't it? Dan's already said that.
Which feet are you camping then, or which camp are your feet in then?
Yeah, Dan's already said that he wouldn't mind me winning the national. So, 300 through 5, great ride to pick up. Obviously, the national's $500,000 to the winner, so it's going to make a massive difference to Trainers' Championship, of course. But even with that, I think we're still in a good position. So yeah, hopefully you have a good Aintree.
Time now for another Analyse This. This lovely grey head is that of Lodesud. Now, I'm not sure necessarily that Ruby and Harry will see the Arkle exactly the same way.
So ordinarily for Analyse This, I just get to say what I want and pick holes in whatever people have done, be that good or bad. But this week, seeing as Harry is here, we're going to look back at the Arkle. Now, having talked to Dan outside, he believes you would like another go at the Arkle and to hold up Lodesud even longer. I don't know how you could do that, so we're going to watch it. Explain how and why you could delay your challenge better. You dropped him in, Masborough's in front of you, Django by, you're in the perfect position.
Yeah, I'm really happy here. Obviously, they're just jumping the third. I just thought Masborough was the one to beat. I thought he'd take me into the race, which he did so. But I just feel that when I went down the hill later
put down
on...
there, were you expecting that?
Not really, no. But then he jumped well down the back. But I think coming down sort of down the hill to 3 out, he just gets into a race very, very easily. And then I was too close to Masborough, I think, 2 out. And I had to sort of delay a challenge.
But you're too close to him because he makes a mistake.
Yeah, but I think he's left me in front there 2 out. Masborough has left his back end in the race, in the fence. And then I've had to commit. I just feel he's a horse that, rather than trying to delay a challenge, I think just come at him with 1 run. And I think from sort of 2 out, I think I was going so easily from 3 out to 2 out, I was just too close to Masborough, I feel.
So
if I'd never have got there,
so Masborough pings the second last. Are you still too close?
Possibly still, I think. At that point of the race, I think I should have been a length further back. Rather than delay a challenge, I think just come with 1 run.
But you don't.
And if I hadn't got there, he hadn't got there.
We watch it again. Maybe they're knocking it out. You never pull him back down the hill. I think you're trying to pick straws and speak hypothetically. From my point of view, to me, when you look at a race or I analyse a race, to me you shouldn't or couldn't have been anywhere other than where you were. You're talking to me completely in the hypothetical, only because the Masborough makes a mistake.
Yeah, I suppose with Masborough, if he hadn't made that mistake, he'd have given me a lead. He would have been sitting in front and probably would have, arguably, he probably would have said he won. But I think here, 3 out, I saw Mark give him a little slap down the neck, Masborough, and I thought, oh, maybe I'm just going a bit too well. Had he not made the mistake, probably yes, he would have still been a length or 2 in front of me. But I think I just got left a little bit soon. As soon as he gets in front, he just thinks the game's done, and he battles on well. But I'd have liked to have just come with 1 rattling run.
Do you think that'd be easier going further?
Yes, quite possibly, but I think he just travels so easy in a race that he's an out-and-out 2-miler. I think he probably wants a few more runners and just keep him interested a little bit more, and you can pass horses and just come with 1 run. I think delaying a run on him is not the thing to do. So if you're there and then have to sit, I don't think that suits him. I think you've got to come with just one attacking run at them.
But the Arkle went really well until Majborough made a mistake, and then we were left in front. But by the way, if Majborough hadn't made the mistake, he'd have won anyway. So, you know, this is we're talking about a horse that actually, when everyone, you know, if we ever come against Majborough again, face Majborough again, and he jumps impeccably, we won't beat Majborough. The evidence is there to show it. So, you know, we know that, the owners know that. We've all discussed this, and we're trying to put him in the right races to maximise him. But
It's interesting to me that you had that conversation, you know, and it could have ended up with him having cheek pieces soon. Do you know what I mean? You had the instinct that was.
Just after winning, we didn't go for them on the day, and I don't.
It's called the post-mortem of defeat.
Yeah. When they win, you don't need to talk about it, do you? Just do it again. Yeah, but one thing is when you look at the 2 mile chase division, John Bond in the UK, John Bond's getting older, and you know there's going to be a lot of those good races he can run in next year. He's versatile regards ground. He jumps very, very well. Like, we will do very well with him next year, and hopefully, fingers crossed, he can go and win another Grade 1. But that's why we're just going to have to think outside the box a little, I think.
Okay.
There's Protektorat. Phenomenal horse. His desire to race, his longevity for us. You know, we raced him as a 3-year-old. He's just been brilliant. You see him there stepping out, how he flicks his toe. He's a very sound horse. He'll go for the Melon. He was, I think, 3rd in it last year. Yeah. John Bond didn't run at Cheltenham last year and went there fresh. He's had a run this year. Makes things a little more level. Of course, John Bond's undefeated when he's away from Cheltenham, so we're not thinking we're going to start favourite. But I always know with this horse he'll give us his best running. I think probably the way the race was run on slightly quicker ground at Cheltenham, Harry could just never be where he wanted to be.
Yeah.
Everywhere he wanted to be, somebody else was. He had to switch round Jungle Boogie. Il Francais ended up in his way then. It's one of those races where if you had the ability to go half a stride easier, he could have been everywhere he wanted to be. But because the ground's a bit better and they're going a hard gallop, you've got to be where everyone else has almost put you.
Yeah, it was
When
a better.
you're good enough, you're always in the right place.
Exactly.
It's also a better race this year, wasn't it? The winner was
No doubt.
a much better level.
No doubt.
Yeah.
The winner blew the race apart. I mean, I watched it back again the other day. I actually thought Mark Walsh sort of got down into him off the back of the last, but he didn't. He actually just canted clear. So, yeah, fair play. But he, you know, Protektorat, he's probably got one more year at it next year, and we'll do the same again.
So with that thought, like he's one more year, would you pull stumps then after Aintree, or would you be considering going again with him?
Well, the thing is, he can't go right-handed. Like, I knew when I ran him at Huntingdon this year, it was going to be a row, and it was a row. So, you know, we can't go to Sandown.
But you wouldn't go Prix Le Barque at 2.5 and Auto, something like that?
Prix Le Barque has moved. So
Right.
Prix Le Barque maybe was even last week.
Was it?
Yeah. So the only race he could really run in would be the French champion hurdle or the Grand
3-1.
Steep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he won't get the Grand Steep if you give him a bus halfway.
Yes.
So he won't, you know, he
French
won't get that
champion hurdle
trip.
is the same, 3-1.
Yeah, it's a long way, isn't it?
Yeah.
He loves
So-
Windsor. You've got to do that again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's how Windsor and I should imagine then Newbury and Cheltenham next year. But yeah, unfortunately for him, left-handed, there's not really a race in the autumn at a sub 3 mile division. You know, you can go to Ascot for the Ascot Chase, but not the Ascot Chase, the 1973 or whatever it's called.
65.
65.
You're good, but you're not right.
Yeah, it's right-handed, so you know he's going to end up in the Royal Box after the second lap. So we won't be doing that. So the only other thing is, I suppose you keep an eye on the weather, and if like the Charlie Hall looked like it was going to be wet, you could have a pop at that.
Yes,
but,
you could.
You know, realistically, you know, his season is about Windsor.
But that's tricky too, because like you're thinking, maybe the Charlie Hall, maybe not. You know the race, so like you got to start building him up for the Charlie Hall
in
early October. But you actually don't have a race for him until January, so that's
Exactly.
not ideal either.
Nope, quite right. And you know that's the problem with the calendar. If you haven't got a horse that can go right or left and go on good or soft, you know, like Ruby says, you can end up being ready at the wrong time of the year, which is not the mistakes that we will be making with with the novices especially, we'll be making sure that they debut a bit later next year.
These are the novice hurdlers.
Novice hurdlers, novice chasers. You've got to make sure that those are making the spring in the best possible shape.
So these are your top end Cheltenham Aintree type horses.
But I think like Protektorat, as he gets older, you have to become more opportunistic,
Yes.
and you have to say,
Sorry, I'm going to butt in here. So these are coming up here at Cantern,
Yeah.
and they're coming straight in
Yeah.
at a trot,
yeah,
and they're continuing to trot here.
yeah. So they'll just do maybe 30, 40 seconds cooling down. The horse's heart rate will rise unbelievably quickly. It can go from resting heart rate, sub 40 to over 200 in seconds. Horses have an enormous spleen, and once they release that blood from the spleen, their heart rate can go up dramatically quickly. It'll also come down very quick, especially in a fit horse, obviously. So by doing that, you're just bringing it back down a little bit slower and a little bit more in sync with themselves. And also as well, yourself, if you go and do some exercise, the last thing that a physician will tell you is, or a trainer will tell you is, okay, now stop.
Mm-hmm.
So we spotted the big 2 load of Southern Protectorat. What else is here?
You got grey dawning out there?
See a grey one as well?
Yeah, he might have to be white dawning in a minute. He's getting greyer and greyer.
What about him then?
I hope.
Butcher his season.
No, I didn't.
Did you leave your season behind in the Betfair Chase?
No, I didn't. And at the time, I thought there was a chance we had. But no, I don't think we have, because he was very good at Kelso. Okay, he wasn't meeting Grade 1 opposition, stacks of Grade 1 opposition at their very best. I think Irroko's still a good horse, but he looked very good that day at Kelso. And I knew after the 2 runs we'd had where we got beat at Haydock, which was very, very frustrating for a whole number of reasons. Then I kind of did I do the right thing, the wrong thing? I don't know. There's only one King George and he seemed well, but it was all over after the first. He didn't get a hard race because it was all over after the first. And then it was so important at that point to make sure we had a good spring, because otherwise if you then have a bad spring, if you just run in the Gold Cup and finish 4th, you then Grey Dawning's not a threat anymore. I couldn't be in that position. I need to make sure we had a good spring, because going into next autumn, I still think he can win the Betfair next year. I still think he can go Gold Cup. But
it's the wrong moment for him in the Gold Cup, essentially how the season developed.
100%. And he, some people have asked me afterwards, do you wish you were there in the Gold Cup? I said, no, I think, okay, the second, Gallopin clearly didn't run his best race, but he definitely didn't run a bad race. He definitely didn't run a bad race.
He definitely did not, no.
So the winner, I thought, and the winner was well fancied, and I thought, if we'd have been in there, would we maybe have been 3rd? I didn't go there thinking, Gallopin's got beat, geez, we should have been there. Not at all. But let's hope we have a good spring. And we're 50% of the way to having a good spring, by the way, because Kelso went well. And if we can go to Aintree, I'd love him to win, obviously. And then you're back on next year as, okay, that's the Grey Dawning that we all know and can win those Grade 1s. I can go to the...
So what would you do differently then?
Well...
Not go to the King George for a start.
Make sure it doesn't rain so much on the day at
That's not
Haydock.
that's out of your control.
I think if it did the same again, you would say you're a year older, year stronger, year more experienced. We perhaps wouldn't kick on quite so much. Royal Pagaille looked beat, and Harry went, "You beat." And I think that if we could have changed anything, that was the thing we'd have changed. But it's how he came. The horses come off the bridle at some point, and when they do, you've got to push them forward. Our horse came off the bridle; he had to get pushed forward. I just think it just conspired against us that day. It just was out of our control, and it was a disaster. It wasn't a complete disaster because we finished second, and he's obviously got over the race. I definitely won't be going to Kempton ever again. I won't be going right-handed ever again, because he just flicks left the last 3 strides before he jumps, and we'll have to just dot around. And I think maybe he'd go to Haydock as a start point and then think about it.
Can do kid, obviously, in the national, just because you're going into the unknown, and I think he's got a sensible profile for the race, and he's in good form, and Paul has actually trained him for it all season.
So we're back down now for second lot, which has got a lot of Aintree horses. Harry obviously has joined us as well. Who do you want to pick out first as we go into Aintree?
If you go to the one right at the back, that's Gwenny Made Boy. He won 3-mile handicap there last year at the Aintree meeting. That was his 3rd run for us when he won that last year, his 3rd win. So like we'd only had him a short space of time. This year probably didn't start as well as we would hoped, but he was carrying quite a lot of weight in handicaps, not the biggest in the world. So to go back to level weights when the Rendlesham was good, he goes there a fresh horse. Looks like the race might cut up a little bit. Obviously a lot of respect for Ollie's horse.
Is the 2nd grade Be Aware?
The second, yeah.
What about him then? Coral Cup, are you disappointed or?
I suppose a little bit, yeah. You can see, like, even just trotting around here, he's very active in his, he's always just doing plenty. But I thought going down to 2 out, I thought, how far really. He was going very well, and then just flattened out and didn't
I thought
really,
he looked like a chaser against hurdlers.
didn't really hit the line as well as we hoped. Probably.
What are you going to do with him in Aintree?
We'll enter him in 2.5.
What would he go to air?
And yeah, exactly.
We have
got
him in
the
the Scottish. He's in the Scottish Champion Hurdle, but the 2 mile around there on good ground, maybe he's a bit sharp.
That's not going to happen 2 mile around there on good ground.
Have you
If
got
it
Valgrand
rained-
in that as well?
Yeah, if it rained a lot, he could go to air, but he could also go to air for a 2.5 mile race. So we'll just keep it open. But he's definitely going to have one more run before he goes
Chasing.
on holiday and then chasing.
So you were talking about the finishing effort of Loda Sud. Does that worry you? I know you're saying he's a chaser, not a hurdler, but the fact that he found less than expected, is that?
No, it doesn't with him, because obviously Loda Sud, those couple of times when he was second over hurdles, he was there to win. Whereas I think the other day there was a lot more hurdler types in the Coral Cup than Be Aware. So yeah, he actually, if you watch it back, Jimmy DeSoy is more or less upsides him turning in, albeit on his inside. And by the line, there's I think 6 lengths in between them. So it wasn't the fact that we were in the wrong place. It's just that ours flattened out and just sort of went home the same speed.
Live Conti,
Bridget's on him.
just in front of the black horse there. He's going to run in the 4-year-olds race. Just had 1 run at Wetherby. His form from France, no toy, is very good.
Does he come from Noel George and that?
Come from, yeah. We like what we see at home. Obviously, his race at Wetherby wasn't much depth to it, but
He was 1 to 9 or something, wasn't he?
Yeah. He could go well.
Give you a good feel, he said.
Yeah, he could go well in the 4-year-olds race. And the horse behind him, Mr. Hope Street. Hopefully, he's going to run a 3-mile handicap. He's been kept back for that race, really.
We haven't seen him since Christmas.
No.
Christmas time. Yeah?
He definitely wants to step up to 3 as well.
By design, by the trainer, I think. You haven't seen him since Christmas.
Is it? This is one that you've planned out.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
What's you call him?
Listen to that.
Mr. Hope Street.
After Hope Street in Liverpool.
That's the Hope Street Hotel, yeah.
Not so bad.
Yeah.
What else
And
have
then
we got?
the third horse here, that's Listen to Your Heart. We had to run her at Kelso to get a 5th run to be able to run in a handicap at Aintree. So she's going to go 2.5 at Aintree. She's definitely mad for the 2.5 now. She won a listed race back in the start of the year.
Newbury.
Yeah. Didn't run too badly actually the other day in the Premier Hurdle at Kelso, but just not quite at the winners level. But I do think she'll go well.
She's late, isn't she?
She is.
Takes no training.
No.
Show her the gallop. That's about it.
And then the one behind is Valgrand. He's probably going to go to air, but obviously we fancied him for the county hurdle. He probably was the one on the whole week that massively underran expectations. He finished second last. He still only beat 10 lengths, but he definitely didn't run as well as we were expecting. But
The light bay horse there, Quaviste, he's going to run the bumper. And we've always quite liked him. He won well at Huntingdon. Quite impressive. He's going to go there to the bumper along with probably another horse. Rialco was
We had him out
placed at
first,
Newbury.
Yeah, we saw
showed
him
you
first.
him,
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
2 nice horses, really.
Ho
Big
Jody
day for
Smoke,
them.
he's gonna run in the Bet 365 at the end of the season. He won at Sandown the other day, so thought we'll go back to the
He's the ace in the back of the pack in case you need it, yeah.
yeah.
So did you work out in a sort of post-mortem about Valgrand and the county hurdle? Did you have any thoughts about what had
I
happened?
didn't really. I think you can be over analytical. I just think that there was a lot more on the day better than him. You were happy with him the whole way around, weren't you, Has? Valgrand?
Yeah. I just when I turned away from the stands, I thought I weren't, just wasn't quite travelling as well as I'd hoped. And then definitely once I turned down the hill, he wasn't taking me into the race, and that's very unlike him. He's horse that travels well, jumps well. Maybe the ground was just a bit dead for him that maybe on the Friday, and then it just got a bit, it could have done with a little bit of rain almost, or just a bit drier ground. But hopefully if he goes to air, it'd be nice, good ground.
One of our regular viewers has asked, does he like to lead? Does he like to dominate? So that they're remembering the performance at Cheltenham.
We obviously made the running when he won back there at the October meeting. It was a small field, but I think he just wants a good even gallop. He's not a horse that has to be ridden in front because he needs to make the run. He just wants a good gallop, and I suppose as a novice he could do that. He can make the running straight in front, but going up to air, I think we'll certainly be up there on the pace probably.
Could he have 4 novice chases won by the November meeting next year?
Not impossible.
So when you look at your string for the coming season, how do you work out which ones to target in the 3 parts of the season that you were talking about? So what's the conversation like? Take us there.
History would be the starting point. That horse has done well at that time of year, or we know it wants that type of ground. Then I think you would go like which are the ones that can be progressive early that may not end up a Cheltenham horse. So then I think you can parcel them into that category. Then you've got the novices. They're split into two necessities. Do they want really soft ground? Well, that means you have to wait. And then the other ones are, do they need to be making sure that we're peaking these horses in March? So they would also go into that bit. There's the odd 1 or 2 that are very, very raw, very, very green, that might take a run before they got any chance of winning anyway. They're too raw mentally or physically or jumping wise. You just know that they're going to need a run. So actually running them the 3rd week of October is okay because you know that they're going to step forward. But what you wouldn't want to have is those horses absolutely ready at that point, because if you did, then you can only go one way. Once you've got to 100%, you can only come down.
And what about the horses that are less easy to categorise? I mean, I can follow all of that, but there must be some that you actually have a conversation
They're
about.
the hard ones to win with, aren't they? The ones that just sit in the middle and you're always trying to scratch your head to find that race.
There'll be loads that surprise you up, and there'll be plenty that surprise you
down.
So be happy with the ones that surprise you up, and think outside the box for the ones that surprise you down.
And that's a conversation, presumably you and the rest of the team, just sort of with ideas about the ones that you're not quite sure at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is he going chasing? Be aware.
Yes. Yeah.
I wouldn't have him making a running on him.
Yeah. Yeah, he would be. I think making the running, I think it comes a point in their life when I would see it as not the last resort, but I think as a horse, especially a young horse, you're always trying to teach them to just settle and relax so they can get the longevity out of their career. But for sure, I think sometimes the time to make the running is once they go over fences, and if they jump well.
13, 14 jumps, and the size of his stride, even watching him trotting there.
Yeah.
Like, come on lads, who's following me?
Yeah.
He takes some following.
Yeah. And no, you're dead right. I think that'll probably be the time to come. But you can see he's very active in his work, and you're always just trying to keep the lid on him a little bit, and that's why we sort of dropped him in and just trying to teach him to settle a bit. But there'll be a time comes where, normally a lot of ours when we go, especially novice chasing, you can let them, they jump well and make use of that.
Let them use themselves, use their advantage.
The New Lion also making progress towards the inside, and these are going clear. Here's Final Demand in the orange, moving through the challenge, and the New Lion coming up on the inside. They run to the home turn, the big 3 in the market now, the Yellow Clay to Final Demand. The New Lion's a length and a half behind these. They've gone clear to Potter's Charm. One more to jump. The New Lion switches to the left. In the centre in orange is Final Demand. The Yellow Clay on the right. Any one of this trio, they're going to be very close at the last flight. At it now. The New Lion and the Yellow Clay go on to Final Demand. Into the closing stages. The Yellow Clay, the red cap, Jack Kennedy. The white cap is the New Lion, Harry Skelton, who's getting up. The New Lion has won the Turners.
A special moment and a rare thing, a Grade 1 winning novice hurdler trained in Britain at the Cheltenham Festival. The new lion was pretty special that day, and this is where he lives. But now we're going to get technical with Ruby and Harry. They're going to analyse this, how he won the Turners.
So, Harry, from the one you think that got away to the one that you definitely nailed, so to a good news story, the new line, you obviously had one plan, follow Paul Townend.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, Willie had 6 runners in the race there. You can see on my outside, there's plenty.
But you're hardly worried about the other 5.
No, but I didn't want to get in there melee and, with a lot of other runners on my outside of Willie's, you see just on the outside of Paul, so I thought I'm better off just to, I always had in my mind, follow Paul.
When Jack got in front of Paul after the third and away from the stands, Paul is 4th, you're almost in the back row. Did you envisage you'd be that far back?
I wasn't worried because I just thought Paul was the one that would take me into the race. And Paul was obviously confident Jack could take him in through. I knew the new line's plenty of gears. He's not a slow horse, I've always said he's plenty of pace. And he showed it here.
So when they turn off the top of the hill, Paul goes out, Jack's gone out. The gaps are there for you. You go inside Sammy Twisted at the back of the second last. Did it ever cross your mind to go all the way,
No,
or were you just getting there?
Absolutely not. Just get in front of Sam. He wasn't going that well. I didn't want to take the run upside in front of Jack there on the inside because it would be there too soon. Switched out here because I knew Paul knew I was there. So I just thought, easy option, just come out. I've got plenty of horse.
When he leaves the ground, what were you thinking?
Probably unrepeatable. But that's how close it is, millimetres, isn't it? But he's brave. He had enough horse underneath me. First time he's had to dig in and battle and put his head down real well, hit the line well, and he's a good horse.
Very good horse. Probably the first time you had to get serious with him as well. But there was a couple of times in the race, for me, where you have showed how different you are as a rider, or have probably improved as a rider. Because there's 2 or 3 instances here where I think you stay where you were, where in the past you would have gotten anxious.
Of course I would have done, but you learn from mistakes and you try not to do them again. And in the heat of the moment, the heat of the battle, that's you've got to hold your nerve.
It's easier said than done. I just think here, it's not, to me, this was the first time the big difference to me came about in you. Not this hurdle, the next hurdle. Paul Townend moves out one, which is 5 from home, and there's a gap. You never take it.
No way. No, don't take it.
A younger Harry Skelton would have.
Yeah, probably would have done, but full confidence in this horse. And I knew, I just thought all the way, I thought we were, disrespectful, we were well in front of the English horses. And I was just always adamant to try and follow Paul for as long as I could. Just come turning in.
When you did grab him at the back of the last, right, he grabs at the last, he puts his feet out, he gets himself there. But when you did grab a hold of him, did you ever think for a stride,
no,
what I hoped isn't there? No,
I didn't. I don't know why. He's a horse with a great character. He's always, he can always give you a bit, and I suppose he's never been in that sort of battle, but I knew I had, especially off the bend turn in, I had plenty of horse and felt like I was always going to get there, to be honest.
Champion hurdlers?
I hope so.
Reflecting on Cheltenham, how do you think it went? Because obviously you had 4 winners, 2 Grade 1s the previous season, came away with the 1 winner, the important one obviously in the new line. How did you reflect on it?
So going into it, it was the first year I ever thought it would be more of a news story if we didn't have a winner than if we did. I feel like we're at that point in our...
Oh, the pressure of expectation.
Yeah, exactly. The lucky pressure of expectation, though. But that's how it felt for the first time ever. I never felt that the year before at all. But it just dawned on me one night. I was thinking, geez, if we don't have a winner, that's going to be more of a story than if we do. So having been that trainer that always says, it'd be great to have 1 winner, I actually became the trainer that's like, we've got to have 1. And sort of like, but you still know in your heart how competitive it is and, who you had to face and everything else. So you kind of say, right, we want 1. and then if we have one, we'll get greedy. And the thing is the year before, obviously those 4, it sets you up for sometimes an unrealistic situation. And I knew we were never going to get 4 this year. We set out with the ambition to get 6, 7, 8. But really, the way the chips need to land for you and the way the ball needs to bounce, it was never really going to happen. You need everything to come together. But that doesn't mean, like I say, we didn't set out thinking that we were going to win 6 or 8, because, why would you go there thinking you're going to get beat?
Presumably the new line was really, really important.
Yeah,
with the
massively.
price tag and JP having bought it. And...
Yeah, but I got a real easy feeling with the new owner and the new team, because JP isn't just JP, he's the team around him, but I got a really easy feeling from the second he changed ownership. JP was ultra supportive in whatever we wanted to do, however we wanted to ride him. And I that might be because, we exuded confidence and all the right things, but at the same time, we just knew he was a special horse. I think I'm on record saying I've had good horses, but not many that could do.
What was he doing different to the other ones?
Just ease and simplicity. His daily routine was so much easier for him than any of the others, and just the way he took it, and what he could cope with. I mean, you could give him a hard piece of work, and should we do another? Whereas a lot of horses, you can give them a hard piece of work, and you can tell the next day or the day after that, or like him, he just never changed. He was the same on Monday as he was on Saturday, and nothing ever stressed him out. He's one of the best eaters I've ever seen. He just eats all his food, and just a very strange horse. And when he comes to the track, then he grows an inch or 2 inches and just becomes all power. At home, a few people said to me beforehand, what will he find off the bridle? And I said, well, plenty. Because at home he's lazy and he's always a bit off the bridle, so he's kind of used to getting clicked along and pushed along. And those horses are always, now I've been doing it this long, they're always the best ones. The ones that travel up and, almost like, hey, look at me, look at how fast I can go. Those are the ones that you get to the track, and they will find the end of that ability.
Yes.
Be able to travel on the bridle, and then once they come off it, now they're in no man's land. Yeah. What do they do when they're not being held onto?
So when he grabbed at the last and wavered for a second and the yellow clay rallied, did you ever have any doubt that he wasn't going to get by?
I can honestly say no. I always thought he was going to win. The whole way round I thought he was going to win. There was a second doubt just turning in, because he does just go through his left shoulder a little. Just Harry's trying to get him out. Once he got him out, I knew he'd win. Oh, look, the jump at the last, if you'd have had longer to analyse it than that, yeah, you'd have thought, oh, hang on, that wasn't. But the speed at which it happened, it's only when you look back at it and you go, that was close. But the speed at which it happened, I mean, he made it look like it wasn't a mistake. And it wasn't a mistake. It was him making a decision, a split-second decision. One leg was half up, and I think that's what saved him. I think State Man the day before came up with both and just came down on the top.
I think the new line did it with conviction.
Yes.
He put his feet out, his hoofs were out,
Yeah.
whereas Stateman always kept his hoofs folded back under his joints. So Stateman got tripped, whereas the new line actually had a call.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your approach to this season? Presumably it was Trainers' Championship and David Power Jockey Cup, twin intents.
Yeah, I suppose so. The thing about both of those competitions is that they take care of themselves if you keep doing the day-to-day thing and run the right horses in the right race and do the right thing and everything else. I won't lie though, there's been the odd one or two, especially with the two championships, if you like, in the spotlight, where I've ran a horse here or there that I thought that can get points, that can get prize money. Phlegmatic ran in the Ascot Chase, finished 4th, picked up 12 grand prize money, 4 points for Harry. But at the same time, if I'd have run him in a handicap on the same card, he might have finished 6th, picked up a grand and no points. So it helped us, Harry, and the owner. But at the same time, I found myself this year concentrating on race planning more than I probably ever have, and that's my favourite part of the whole thing. I love race planning, and I know this year there's a lot of conversations about Premier racing. I love Premier fixtures because they're on a Saturday or predominantly Saturday, and they're going to be for this much money. Even the bumper's worth 20 grand, so I can go, right, what can I run at that fixture, and then I can block that fixture and say, right, those horses are all running there. Okay, what else do we have ready this week? Okay, there's those 15, those 20. They fit in quite nicely there. So actually taking a reverse approach and going, okay, the best ones go on these days, and the ones that are ready for those best races go on these days, and then the rest I can work out best for them. I think it almost made it easier, which when you say you've got the number of horses we have, it probably shouldn't be, but it actually made it easier breaking it down into sort of almost manageable modules. Yeah.
So you were talking earlier about the delegation element, and at some point you had to go from a certain size of string to a much bigger size of string, which means that you can no longer know everything all the time. Talk us through how making that leap was for you mentally, sort of psychologically speaking.
I just think it was the next step in my evolution as a trainer, as a manager. It was something that was, I tried to deal with what's presented to me and work out the best for me, and then the best, at the same time, the best for the team, the best for the horse, the best for the owners. So when that situation was apparent to me, I had to make a conscious decision whether I was going to be this micromanager or whether I was going to be the overall manager and steer the ship rather than change the cam belt and change the oil and everything else.
And this presumably is a step beyond what you'd both experienced at Paul Nicholls, sort of like because of the scale of the string that we're talking about here.
Probably, yeah, definitely. Paul was obviously had Clifford and Dan, whatever else the different assistants were, but yeah, I noticed even watching Harry doing the board this morning, watching Tom Messenger, people seem to have more responsibility here than anyone did at Ditchit.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, we have more horses here now than I work with at Ditchit. And it's different management styles. When I first started, I was just like Paul Mark II. I even to the fact where I measured his gallop. I Google mapped it. I said, we've got a great gallop here up the hill. And I remember saying to my dad, it's not steep enough. Paul's is steeper. I just thought I had to do everything that Paul did. And when I moved up here and started training by myself, I fed the same food Paul did. I got all the same recipes for the haylage that Paul Barber made. I did everything. I even wanted to find a spring somewhere because Paul Nicholls fed spring water. So I couldn't find that.
When did you leave that behind? When did you cross the Rubicon?
Yeah, so
into being Dan Skelton?
Yeah, so that's it. And I don't know when that was exactly. I got a lot of confidence the year we trained 200 winners because I set out with an objective that year to train 200 winners. I set out with the objective not because I wanted to be the person that trained 200 winners, the only person other than Martin Piper in the UK to train them. I wanted to do it because I said I was going to do it. And I felt that if I said to my owners, my supporters and everyone else, we're going to train 200 winners this year, and we did, when we then said we're now going to take these horses to the next level and we're going to be a consistent grade 1 trainer, they'd say, you remember when he said he could train 200 winners, and he did. We'll believe in him the same in this. So I didn't do it.
You're proving yourself.
Yeah, I didn't do it for vanity. I did it because I thought this would be a step to producing those results. And I suppose that's probably when I stepped into my own shadow rather than being in Paul's a little bit. And then from there, I've just had to make these decisions on delegation and on management. And I'm really happy with where it is. And do you know what? The release you get from going, do you know what? You do that. It's sometimes the hardest thing to do. But like I say, that micromanaging, it's just not sustainable because people like to make their own decisions. People like to be free to, not to necessarily make all the mistakes because the senior management are there to make sure the mistakes that they once made aren't made. But new mistakes, I'm quite happy for people to make new mistakes because you only learn new things by making new mistakes. Only a fool keeps making the same mistake. Like, I don't want any of them. Not that I don't make the odd one or two, but you'd say, I thought I'd have learned by now. But I don't mind that. I don't mind people making new mistakes because it means you're on the road to something different.
Is this the direction we're moving towards then, this sort of like super trainer, the trainer of this scale? I mean, we've got Willie Mullins, obviously, you're here. I mean, do you think that you need that in order to be competing at that level?
Well, for a start off, I'm a long way to go before I get to Willie.
Of course.
But in terms of numbers, I suppose not massively. But I mean, there's it's a whole other conversation in which directions the industry going in. But it does appear you know, it does appear, working in the industry, and I'm sure reporting on it and following it, that, you know, bigger trainers are getting bigger. There's trainers that are retiring through, you know, through multiple reasons, not least of all age, because, you know, trainers are really, they're an aging population. They're not getting replaced. So I think by virtue of that, the big are going to possibly get bigger, and I think there is a danger that it becomes too.
I was about to say, is it objectively
central.
good for the sport? You know, having power collected in fewer hands.
I don't think it's necessarily good for the sport in its current model, but I think we need to be open to advertising and promoting this sport for what's about to come, if that's what's about to come, because what you can't change is supply and demand is vital in any walk of business. And if we're in a supply and demand business and X trainers have X horses, that's the model that then racing perhaps has to live with. The only thing is like it does become problematic when a Grand National, for instance, say you never want to see a Grand National with only 6 or 8 trainers represented. That will mean that race loses its romance.
Essence,
and yes, exactly. And
yeah.
I think, but I do think that the top end, you know, is, you know, it has to be about the top end horses. It's no different to, you know, boxing or darts, or one manager has got loads of players or fighters, and that's
Premier League, rugby, it all goes round. But you go back to supply and demand. What about the supply?
Yeah,
big problem.
Huge problem.
You're talking about supply of talent.
Yeah, horses.
Yeah, massively.
the horses, the raw products, essentially.
The biggest athlete in it.
They are the stars of the show, and I appreciate the jockeys. You know, the jockeys are the stars of the show, and the Power Cup, trying to promote that jockey, I think is a great thing, because, you know, we need to have, for want of a better word, pin-ups.
Yeah.
You know, we need, you know, Ronaldo for so long. You know, he carried football as the main person. Then, you know, there was Messi, and, you know, we've got some newer, younger talent now that are pushing football and keeping it relevant. But we need that with jockeys. I mean, your era, you know, it was a golden age almost, because tactically you were all so like astute, and
it was a different era though. There was no social media as
no,
such.
exactly,
and it was a very different era.
I was talking to my dad about show jumping. I said, what's the main difference from show jumping from now, from when my dad's era? And the truth is, they've all left the bar and gone to the gym.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And your era was just on the cusp of the bar and the gym.
Yeah.
And it created those characters that were easy to sell. It was easy to sell Terry Biddlecombe, because he was this larger-than-life character who got on a horse, went 30 mile an hour over a load of jumps, and what a legend, because he got stuck in the evening as well. But that's not modern sport. And,
no.
You know, it's supplying the characters in the sport is very difficult, because we all have to behave in a certain way, especially now the social media and everything else. But you're right, the supply of the horses is the biggest crux.
And it's the thing that people see. They watch the Cheltenham Festival, we see our top races, particularly in Britain, and say we've got small fields, they're shallow fields, they're uncompetitive. You know, the horses that we're told are the best on Saturday, we're then seeing getting thumped by whenever a Willie Mullins horse might come over. I'm exaggerating the case slightly, but you see what I mean. So what do you think what should the sport be looking at to be able to try and address that key fundamental problem?
I think we've got like, I'm shooting myself in the foot here, but I think we've got an oversupply of races.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, like and that's from me, and I'm shooting myself in the foot by saying that, because, you know, I need as many races to run horses in and everything else. But I think we have an oversupply of races. Like I say, I love the Premier idea of racing, and I think we certainly shouldn't lose that in its
the theory was spot on.
Yeah, the theory, the market
mightn't have been perfect.
Exactly,
the
marketing of it didn't quite go hand in glove with what they wanted to achieve in terms of quality. So I think that's very important. But supplying those horses, we've got to work out a system. I actually think a lot of horses are undone, for want of a better word, at a young age, because they are tried from a young age.
I agree with you.
Right. Go right back to the supply. We're breaking horses in earlier to find out what they can't do, not what they can do. Find out what they can't do, and that's effectively what the selling model of a horse is based upon. Because none of us know what a horse can do, what its absolute limit is, But those people that are selling horses, the French sellers, the point-to-point sellers and others, like they know what they can't do, which is why a horse can go into the ring and the most it can make is 80 or 100, or the most it could make is, John Bon money.
And why the big hitters are all heading towards the same horses.
Exactly, because we don't know what that horse can't do, but whereas we know that horse can only do so much.
Yeah.
So a lot of these horses are getting tried from a young age. They're not being given time, perhaps, where they would become a really good 6, 7, 8-year-old. We need to know now because the market wants to know now, because then we can go and get paid for them now.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of horses that are not falling by the wayside. I don't want to use that word, but they're not.
They've been sorted.
Yes.
Sooner.
Yes.
They've been not reaching their maximising their potential, but there is an argument that by the time a horse gets to its end user, be it that it's racecourse owner, it's too late. It almost like that the end user had to be getting involved earlier for horses to reach their maximum potential. I
That's
think
a financial
huge.
problem.
That is a financial problem, yeah.
Because buying a store now, I've got great owners, and all my owners now appreciate that store bought at 3 years old in June might not run until 4 years old in October or November, and they're happy with that. And that's an unbelievably positive position to be in for a trainer. Not all trainers have that luxury, but saying to an owner effectively, there's a store, call it 50 grand, it's going to be probably another 30 before you run it. And they go, can we not just go and buy a point-to-pointer for 100 now that we can run next year?
Yeah.
And you go, well, yeah, okay, we can do that. And I'm picking numbers at random. I'm not saying that that's the average. I'm just picking those numbers at random. So then you go and buy that horse. That store horse that may have been getting the time had you bought it has now gone into a different system. It's getting broken in and it's getting tried, to then realise a profit for the then seller. So it's, and I don't want to concentrate on the point-to-point scene, England or Ireland. The same thing's happening in France, because the system in France has always been 3 and 4 years old. So you've got to go. There's less horses in France now than there was, because all the clever pinhookers have been buying in Ireland, have been buying them, and they're all walking around the Derby sale at 3 years old. Big beautiful horses that are, of course, a lot of them are making the grade, but these aren't okay. They're problems in that they're something that we've got to sort out, but these aren't negative problems. I don't want anyone to think that Skelton says we're starting horses too young and everything else. It's not. It's just it's our new reality. This is how our sport is. We've got to work out how best now to deal with that reality, and that's what we've not been doing.
More discussions like this, I think would help.
But to my mind, I don't know what you think, but that's not what we've not been doing. We've been going, can we go backwards, or they want to fix what is happening. Work with what's happening.
Everyone wants to point a finger at who's created the problem, instead of people looking for the answer as to how we evolve the situation that we're in. So it's that sector's problem and that sector did this, and it's not. Everybody has their right to earn a living and do the best that they can. But to me, it's how do we get more horses onto the racecourse? More horses onto the racecourse, rather than horses not getting to the racecourse. And it's answering that problem to me.
Very much so.
I know a lot of people might say it rests with the trainer, just run them more.
No.
And that's an easy...
Well, we were talking about this earlier.
Hard.
Your top horses are racing less often because they're fitter, and because they're fitter and then they run in races, those races are an end-to-end gallop. It's a different thing, whereas horses in the previous era would build through a season, wouldn't they, in terms of
and that's why I'm saying it's
fitness.
hard to just say to a trainer, well, run them more. Because actually, you'd probably... That horse would probably last even less.
Yeah.
But do you think that you're talking about an era too where there was a complete break in national hunt racing? So then everybody started from the same pitch when racing came back, whereas now you have horses running all of it through the summer, so they're fit as fleas taking on winter horses, and the winter horses having too hard a race the first day, and it's counterproductive. Anyway.
I'd love to stay and talk more about this. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap it up because we've only got an hour. But I do want to talk about very briefly the Trainers' Championship, which obviously was one of the plans. We're poised where you should win it, really, shouldn't you? You should be winning it. I know there's a lot of money for the Grand National.
The trucks at the minute. I'm not going to give it to him.
Yeah, Willie's coming over for Aintree. What you must have studied it and looked at it mathematically.
What I think's happened today is that you're not actually here to talk to me about my season. You've actually just come under the guise of Ruby, coming to see what's going to happen at Aintree.
Don't worry, I text him. This man has no bullets left to fire.
So basically, if one of your main rivals wins the National, we're going to be seeing you at Perth.
Yeah, well, it's like if one of those wins the national, it's going to make the last couple of seasons interesting. But I do think it hinges, on the national. We're a short price to do it, and it would feel very differently losing this year compared to last year. Because last year, the whole year, I never thought we were even it didn't even mention.
Right, you've it worked out. What do you need to get out of Aintree?
If we get 400 grand in April, that'll be enough.
See, we both knew that he would know the answer. Absolutely.
Of course you did. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Expect him to know the
absolutely,
answer.
100%.
And that's kind of what we average on a year-to-year
So
basis.
400 grand in April means how much are you going to get out of Liverpool, like I asked?
Well, that'd be, if you get 250 plus, that's
the back broke on it.
That's the back break of it, yeah. And then you've got air and a few other meetings to go afterwards. I think we go to Aintree with a really, really good team. I think it's probably the strongest team we've ever had go to Aintree, just by virtue of a few of those, the Grey Dawnings and the Liv Contis and Gwenny May Boyd not going there fresh. Mm-hmm. So that all helps. The handicaps, I think we've got loaded with those. But like I say, the championship this year would feel very, very differently, because last year I never thought I was going to. It was never even a conversation until Protektorat won the Ryanair, and then I'm like, hang on, let's do the maths. Geez, could win this.
Yes.
And then there was those 2 weeks, I call them the glorious weeks, where I didn't see Willie's entries for Aintree, where I thought I might be champion trainer, and then I saw Willie's entries for Aintree, and I thought, yeah, perhaps I won't. Yeah, and then of course it hinged on the national, and of course Maximus won, and it wasn't. I have to say it wasn't a pill to swallow last year. It honestly wasn't. Yeah, of course you're disappointed to get beat because you never want to lose, but it wasn't that wasn't a big lesson, and didn't keep me awake at night, and it wasn't like that. This year would be very different.
You've got one hand on the trophy.
Well, I just think this year. I knew last Christmas that this year would be the year that we could do it, because we knew we had a bit of a team for the summer, and had I had the summer that we've had this season, the season before, Willie actually wouldn't have caught us. And I just knew that every little counts. Let's get organised. Let's make sure that this, let's not do not do something and wish we had, and let's not just rely on this being an October to April thing.
So essentially we learned that. Let's not leave it behind this time.
Yeah.
We'll correct that. Thank you so much to you and to Harry and the entire team for your hospitality here. It's been lovely. A really great insight. Really, really enjoyed it. Best of luck at Aintree. Hopefully we won't see you at Perth.
Thank you.
So what do you think? Do you think Dan has got two hands on the trophy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would. I think the opposition will need an absolute miracle in Aintree next week, and I just think he has enough firepower to earn himself enough money between now and the end of the season to be champion trainer. It was his goal. He's going to achieve it. But I have a funny feeling, having spent the morning here, that this place is only going in one direction.
Yeah, up and out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the overwhelming message from here, isn't it? Because they're hungry, they're constantly looking to improve, they're looking at detail, they're learning from things. That's just the overriding feeling here.
It is, and it's team, and there's Harry's involvement and everyone else that's here. This place is as we said, getting bigger and better, and there's opportunities here. I know if I was 16 or 17, there's opportunities here.
Yeah, because you can be the next big thing, can't you, in that time? And imagine everything that you'd learn and soak up whilst you're being here.
There's 20, 30 years in this place.
Yeah, at least. Well, I hope you have enjoyed Road to Skelton, the unofficial Road to Aintree. The proper Road to Aintree, though, will be back Wednesday, 9 o'clock. See you then.
Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.